So we're in this last stretch here of Advent, and so I've had the privilege of going over to Faithful Shepherd, our school, and talking to the different classes about Advent and Christmas and kind of why we celebrate that, what that is. And one of the main themes that comes up in these class visits is Advent and Christmas is not just a thing of the past. We're not just recalling an event that happened 2,000 years ago. We are. That's part of what we're doing. It certainly is an event that actually happened. But there can be a way where I think we treat it kind of like the 4th of July, where we're like, well, that was nice when our country was founded, 200 years ago. Well, that was nice when God became a baby and was born in a barn 2,000 years ago. But it doesn't really have any bearing on my life right here, right now. But just to be very clear, this is actually an event in history. When you hear the Bible say things like, under the reign of Caesar Augustus, under the kingship of King Herod, okay, that's like me telling you, Deacon Randy, he was born when Queen Elizabeth II was Queen of England and Denny Green was head coach of the Vikings. That takes you exactly to what I'm talking about. Those are historical figures that actually existed, and it places you in a place and time. And it's the same thing with Caesar Augustus and Herod. It actually happened. Historically, it is a real thing, and we recall how important that is. But it's not just that. Advent and Christmas, it is a thing for right here, right now. It has big impacts on your life and mine. There is a way, a wrong way, I would say, where we can look at God in this fancy way, a deism, if you've ever heard of this word. What a deist would say is that God is like a clockmaker. God made the world, God exists, He made the clock, He wound it up, He set the world over here, and now He's doing His own thing. He just kind of lets us go about our day. He's not involved in our life day to day. And there's a way where if we treat Advent and Christmas like a thing only in the past, we're kind of treating God like that. Like, yeah, that's really nice, He came 2,000 years ago, isn't that great? Which is true. But it has no bearing on right here and right now. No. The God that we believe in, Emmanuel, God with us. Notice what I said there, present tense. God with us right here, right now. Yes, 2,000 years ago, He busted onto the scene. God loved us so much that He came down from heaven and became one of us. For those of you that like Disney World or like Disney stories, this is like, the castle, the kings and the queens. The king, from his beautiful castle, saw that the people in his village were in trouble. He came down from his castle and became one of them. He put on the clothes that the people in the village wear. He was baking the bread like the people were. Jesus became one of us. The king came down from his castle and lived among us. And then what happens? Well, the king actually goes back to his castle, and guess what? The whole village goes with him. The coming down from the castle is Christmas. The going back up to the castle is Easter. We become royalty. We are now allowed into that beautiful castle. So what we're celebrating has big impacts on you and on me. It's also similar to, if you've ever seen the show The Undercover Boss, when the CEO, big suit, and they in their penthouse, and they come down, and they're, a flight attendant, or they're doing the dishes at their company. In each of these instances, the CEO, the king, breaks into time, busts onto the scene, and becomes one of us. Present tense. And so here's the point I want to make today. God did not just make the world and forget about it. God did not make the world, come down 2,000 years ago, and then went back to watching the clock from a distance. No. He did break in 2,000 years ago, but He's also breaking into your life and mine right here and right now. In 2024, under the kingship of King Charles and head coach Kevin O'Connell, here he is. Emmanuel, God with us, present tense. So here's the point. My brothers and sisters, God is not elsewhere. I think a temptation that I experience, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is to treat God like he's somewhere else. He's not with me here and now. An example, we can kind of treat God like he's in the past. What do I mean by that? Now, the past is a good thing. The past is a beautiful thing. We can learn from the past. The Bible tells us to be grateful to the past for the things that God has done. And also, think about in the past, if there are difficult things in your life, God says he wants to bring healing. So the past isn't bad, but the temptation can be to live there, to live in the past. That's way different than acknowledging it and reverencing it, but to live in the past. And so some ways that this can come up in me, think about it. I'm here in this present moment, but my mind and my heart are way back here. I'm telling myself, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. I'm having regret about the past. I'm ruminating on those thoughts. And I'm living in a place, maybe even also I'm looking back like, the glory days. How amazing. But when I'm living there, God is here, right now, loving me, bursting into my life. He's this close to me, but I'm stuck back here in the past. And another temptation I can face as well, we got to go back to the past for a second. I need to say this. If a sentence in your mind or heart starts with the phrase shoulda, coulda, or woulda, hang up the phone. God does not start sentences with shoulda, coulda, or woulda. The priests in the seminary often say, don't should on yourself. Don't should on yourself. Now we're moving to the future. This is another temptation. We can live in this place of anxiety about the future. And again, I'm not talking about clinical anxiety. I'm talking about spiritual anxiety. This sort of dread of what's coming up. Or, on the other side, maybe Deacon Randy finds himself in this situation now before ordination. Man, once I just get to be a priest, once I just get to vacation, once I just get to here, then I can be happy. I'm living in the future. I'm living in not shoulda, coulda, woulda, but what if? Whew. When does God ever start a sentence with what if? Yeah, but what if your friends don't like you anymore? And what if, no. Hang up the phone. The future is also amazing. We're supposed to hope in it. We're supposed to be prepared for it. It's a good thing. The past and the future are good things. But the problem is when we live there. Because God is in the present moment. He's right here, right now, loving us. Here's what St. Faustina says. When I look into the future, I'm frightened. But why plunge into the future? Only the present moment is precious to me. The future may not even happen at all. You're worried about something that might not even happen. And then she says, it's no longer in my power to change, correct, or add to the past. Not even the most powerful people on earth, the prophets, could do that. And so what the past has embraced, I must entrust to God. And she finishes, O present moment, you belong to me, whole and entire. I desire to use you as best as I can. My brothers and sisters, the truth of Christmas, Easter, Advent is God is here now. Right here, right now. And the best question that we can ask ourselves every day is, what is God doing in my life right here and right now? In the concrete, in the people around me, in the world around me, in my heart, in my mind. What is God doing? God is not elsewhere. He's here. And just like he broke on the scenes, God with us 2,000 years ago, he does so every day of our lives. And so my question for you is this. In the office, when we have staff meetings, Father Tony has what he calls God moments. We have to go around the table before the meeting, and we have to name a moment in the last 24 hours or so where we have seen God working, God moment. And it's so beautiful, actually, because what it does is it pulls you, if you're getting stuck in the shoulda, coulda, woulda, or you're getting stuck in the what ifs, it pulls you back here to where God is in the present moment. And so my invitation for you as we approach Christmas, maybe this is a beautiful thing to do as a family or in your own personal prayer. I want you to reflect every 24 hours on a God moment. Where have you seen God working in your life in the last 24 hours? You will be surprised at the fruits, because our God is not a clockmaker. He didn't just forget about us. We're not just remembering something that happened 2,000 years ago, although it did. But He's here, right now. God with us, Emmanuel.